Hey there, let me show you how you can add glowing lines to your photos. This is a widely popular effect because it's fairly easy to create, but it's quite impressive in its simplicity. This is the end result, and we're going to recreate it in the next 10 minutes. The effect relies on your pen skills, so this is a great exercise to practice working with it. Let's select it with the P key and make sure you're on the path option from the top left. Back to the canvas, I know a lot of people struggle with their curves. Sometimes it's hard to get them right, especially if you want a lot of them, like in this case here. As you can see, I'm making a mess of things, and we want a smooth effect. This just isn't going to cut it, so let me go back a few times. Well, instead of clicking and dragging, you can simply click and create straight lines. Afterwards, we'll use the Convert Point tool from the pen, and this way we can bypass all the headache. How much you click is up to you, but I'll go fairly fast here, 1 click per side. One on the left, one on the right, all the way down. Preferably your subject should be distinguished from the background. Here, this is a good candidate, but I'm sure you can find lots of photos where you're standing, so please try it on your own photos afterwards. Okay, so I went through it pretty fast, and clearly I have some issues, but this is why I love this approach. While on the pen tool, hold down the Alt or Option key on a Mac. Go to this second point, click and drag downwards. If you want to make sure you're getting a good result, add Shift as well, and this will keep you in check. Now this is done, I can move on to the next one, and I can repeat this process as many times as it takes. You'll notice some of them won't be positioned properly. That's not a problem because we can manipulate this path easily with the Direct Selection tool. Instead of switching to it, I'll hold Control or the Command key on a Mac, and this will change my cursor to this white arrow. Now I'm free to reposition it as I please. My goal is to get these lines to look nice and smooth, but this is going to take a minute because I clicked lots of times. Bear with me as I speed up the process and convert each point. This is one way to get familiar with Bezier curves without all the trouble. I think this is a great way to practice, so even though you may not love the end result, it's still a valuable exercise as far as the pen tool's concerned. I suggest you zoom in and pan around with your spacebar key so you can see what's going on. It's up to you if you want these lines to be closer to her body or further away. If you want to make something more interesting, you could start with just a few pixels distance, and as you move down, you can increase the distance. That's more time-consuming, but it'll give you a more impactful effect. By the way, in case you're having any issues, grab the Path Selection tool and click on it. An alternative is to completely switch to the Direct Selection tool because we won't be needing the pen tool for any important work. Right, now we have this set up. The next step is to create a new layer, and this is important, so don't skip it. Then switch over to the Brush tool. As you can see, the path remains active since we didn't do anything to dismiss it. Now choose any brush, but it should be fairly small, I'd say under 20 pixels, but this depends on your image. For the hardness, you can experiment with anything from 60 to 80%. Please make sure you have white set as your foreground colour and that your brush opacity is maxed at 100%. Great, we've set up our brush, now we can go back to our pen tool and right-click anywhere on our canvas as long as the path is active. We'll get a bunch of options, but we're looking for Stroke Path. Once we hit it, we'll have this new window. From here, we'll choose Brush, and we have to check this option to simulate pressure. That's usually used for tablets, but here it's going to create a nice effect. Okay, here's our result. Please double-check this on its own layer. And in case you're not happy, now's the time to use Ctrl-Z to further adjust your curves. Once you apply your brush, that's it, so take your time with it and don't rush it. Okay, I'm happy with it. Press Enter so we can get rid of our path. Now we need to hide parts of this trail, so we have the option of working destructively with the eraser or non-destructively with a mask. Of course, we'll go with the second option. Now with our mask active, we can begin to paint with black. You'll need to adjust the brush size, of course, but that's easily done with the square bracket keys. I know I told you lots of times already, but this keeps your flow going. The idea here is to make it look like the line is sometimes going behind her, while other times it's placed in front of the girl. This needs patience and a lot of zooming in. In case you mess up, use X to flip your colours and paint that area back in. Of course, you could potentially use various selection tools to speed up the process or diversify your workflow. But I'm demonstrating this effect with the brush tool because I've seen this is less intimidating for beginners. As I'm working in the background, I'd like to tell you how to troubleshoot a potential problem. In case your brush isn't looking like this, it's probably because Simulate Pressure didn't work. If you want to make that happen, enable Shape Dynamics from the brush panel. In this window, you'll have to look for Control. From this drop-down, you'll have it set to pen pressure, even though you may not have a tablet. In my case, even though I have one connected, I'm not going to use it for this exercise. Even so, Photoshop is still showing me a warning through this symbol here. Nevertheless, I'm just about done with my line removal. Okay, here we are. Now we can get into our layer styles, but this step is easy. First, we can change the color to white with color overlay, just in case you didn't paint with it. Here I'm good. The magic happens with outer glow, but we don't have any complicated settings. We'll keep the blend mode to screen and set the opacity fairly high. 80% will do just fine. The technique is softer, the spread is 10%. Next, this setting will expand it, so let's start with 10 pixels. For the color code, you can use whatever you want. I'll go with a bright magenta. Its color code is FF00D8. Now hit OK and inspect your result. Most likely you'll now see some issues around her dress that are caused by this glow, but no worries, grab the brush tool and start painting. Please make sure you click on the mask's thumbnail and not on the layer. There's a huge difference between the two, so always glance at your layers panel to be sure you're on the right track. You may want to adjust your brush hardness as well. This is going to take a few minutes, so I'll fast forward because there's nothing special about it. The goal here is to get a lovely effect, not see me perform manual labour over and over. That may be entertaining as well. Nevertheless, here's where we're at. Now, if you want to take it further, let's duplicate this layer. Okay, the effect intensifies, but that's not what I'm after. If you want to achieve that effect, go and play with your outer glow settings. Remember, we used a 10% spread and a 10 pixel size, but you can take it up to any value. Okay, move it down, say 30 pixels. That means you have to tap your down arrow key 3 times while you hold Shift. Now we can change the outer glow color to something else, maybe a bright teal or something like that. I'll also lower my settings to 5% and 5 pixels just to get some variety. Of course, with this repositioning, you'll need to adjust your mask because it doesn't fit anymore. But I'm sure you're well accustomed to working with it. I won't take any longer, so I'll show you the end result. Here it is. This is our glowing lines effect, and it took about 15 minutes in total to complete with all my brushing and editing. Make sure you practice and you try it out on some other photos. Have fun with it. The possibilities are endless.